Well, hello everybody. Hopefully you're having a fabulous day. Today we're going to be starting on congruent triangles. That's our next unit we're doing. On this slide you've got all your basic stuff. What we're tackling today is just the different polygons and telling if they're congruent or not, looking at angles, looking at sides, seeing if you can match up which ones go with which based on the symbols that they give you. So hopefully just a nice introductory unit or lesson for today that's not quite difficult. And this is all at the top of your notes page, so you don't need to copy this down. Alright, this one you do need to copy down. These are your definitions for today. Congruent polygons have to be the exact same shape and size. Some of you probably already know that, because I remember that you told me about that before. If they are corresponding parts, those are the angles and sides that are congruent in both polygons. So go ahead and pause right here and fill in those on yours, and then I will progress to the next example. Alright, so here we've got some different examples of things that are congruent and things that are not congruent. Okay, for example, these two right here, same shape, same size, different shapes, not congruent. These two stars, same exact shape, it's hard to say shape. Same shape, same size, they are congruent. Okay. Same thing with these rhombi and triangles. Okay. Even though they're tilted to be a different direction, they are exactly the same shape and size. Okay. These circles, however, even though they're both circles, one's small, one's a little bit larger, definitely not the same size. Same things with these ellipses. Okay. One is really long and skinny, one's a little bit too small, so they're not congruent. So just a few very basic examples of things that are congruent and things that are not. You don't need to write that down, though. Alright, so this one I'm going to go through matching up the symbols with each other. Most of you can probably figure it out because we've looked at these symbols before. Hopefully these are not brand new ideas for you. What I'm going to be doing is just looking at the marks in my picture. So if I look at angle A, there's two arches going on that angle. Okay? Obviously that has to match with the one that's got the same amount. So that would be H in this second one. Be very careful to use your correct symbols. You want to be accurate. You want to look professional and formal. You don't want to look like somebody who's being sloppy with their letters. Put the angle symbol and the letter. Make sure you also include the congruent symbol. That's what this little equal sign with a swirl means. That means congruent, which if you don't remember, means equal or same. Okay, so we're going to be seeing that symbol a lot in this unit. Alright, and then angle B has one little angle arch that matches with angle J. Duh. So mark that down. And last but not least, by default, C has 3 angle arches, K has 3 as well. So I'm going to mark it there in my lovely color coding as well. Okay, so those are pretty easy for the angles. The sides really aren't that much more difficult, but you do have to be kind of cautious about what order you put them in. I've got A, B, and we'll get some nice colors to match them too. A, B has one tat mark, T-A-T, tat mark, and that matches with HJ, and notice I said HJ, not JH, because A should match with H, just like we said up here. And you should pay attention to the order. BC has 2 tat marks in it, which matches with JK. And notice I'm putting the line over it to show that it's a segment. You should do that as well to be accurate. And last but not least, we have CA, and that matches with KH. Gotta think about how to order my letters, so I tell you the right thing. So that's pretty much the basis of just the beginning part of it. Now down here we have what's called a congruence statement. Congruent statement is simply just saying the entire shape is congruent to the second entire shape. We've said all the angles, we've said all the sides, so the whole shape has to be congruent. Notice it has a lovely triangle symbol here because it's talking about a triangle. So you should use the same symbol in your second one. And you need to be cautious about what order you put the letters in. It's got to follow the same order. If it's A, B, C, then it has to match with what those match with. A goes with H, B goes with J, C goes with K, so I need to put it in the same order. So this is congruent to triangle H, J, K. And the reason why I'm being so very nitpicky about that is because of this. When the next person comes along, they're probably only going to see this part, the part that's telling the triangle's congruent. By just looking at that, they can tell that angle A should match with H because they're both the first letter. They can tell that B should match with J because it's the second letter. And they can tell that C should match with K because of the third letter. Now, if you put them out of order, you're going to mess up whoever's coming to look at the picture next. Now, right now, it seems kind of dumb because it's just math homework. Okay, but we're thinking ahead to the future. We're thinking about being very logical, very accurate with your things when you have a job someday, okay? Or when you're going to college. You need to be very careful about how you match things up because just because you know what you're talking about does not mean the next person is going to. Okay, so that skill of being accurate and matching things correctly is very important with this unit. Okay? On this one, go ahead and pause the video now. This is on your notes page. See if you can fill in everything on your own. You need to tell me what angles are congruent to each other, what sides are congruent to each other, and then you need to make a congruent statement. Okay, now obviously I can't tell if you pause or not, but I hope that you do so that you can practice and get better at this. So please pause now, and then when you're ready, push play again, and I will put the answers up for you. Alright, so hopefully you worked them out for yourself. I'm going to match up my letters based on what we just talked about. Angle P should go with angle G. They both have one angle arch. Angle Q should match with angle F. Notice all my lovely symbols that I'm using. You should have that as well. If you forgot that, then go ahead and go back and put your symbols in. Make it look right. Make it look accurate. And angle S goes with D, angle D. So go ahead and check that over. Those should be all 4 angles listed. You can't just do 1 or 2. You gotta be all of them. And let's look at the sides now. We've got PQ. That's got 1 mark. That matches with GF. And we've got PS with 2 tap marks, which matches with GD. Make sure you put the lines over to show it's a segment. Don't just put the letters, please. And then, where are we at now? SR is congruent to DE. And if you put yours backwards, let's say you put RS is congruent to ED, that's okay. It's the same exact thing. It's all good. As long as you got the same sides as I do, you're doing okay. And then the last one, we have RQ. Let's see if we did it right. Hopefully I did. RQ is congruent to EF. And you'll notice on these ones that this has 3 and this has 3. That means that this side and this side are congruent, as well as being congruent to this side and this side. So in each of the shapes, there's 2 sides that are congruent. And that's okay. We're still going to write them the same way as we were before. Doesn't really change our process. It just means that there's 2 sides that are equal in the picture. And do not forget the congruent statement. Now, for 4-sided figures, we don't actually have a symbol. I don't know why, but apparently we don't. For triangles, you do, but since we don't have a symbol for it, we're just going to write the letters. And I'm actually going to use this up here to help me. It has to go in the correct order, so if I'm going to go P, Q, R, S is congruent, I need to match it in the exact same order. So P goes with G, Q goes with F, R goes with E, and S goes with D. So I put it in the exact same order as the angles I did up above, just so I know that they match correctly for the next person who's going to see it, just like we talked about. If you need to, go ahead and pause the video now and copy that down if you messed something up, or if you just need to tweak a couple answers, that is okay. Alright, moving on to the next one. Now we're going to throw a little algebra in, move your level up a little bit so that you can do a little bit higher level thinking. Okay? So we've got our congruent statement up here, and I'm going to actually rewrite it into a sort of key for myself. If the first letter is A in the first one, it has to match with the first one in the second one, which is D. Those two have to match. B matches with F in the same way. And C goes with E. Awesome. Now we have a little key for ourselves. I don't have to keep going back to that to figure it out. This is important. Do not neglect the key. The reason for that is this. Sometimes they like to mess with you. They like to turn these pictures around and twist them and turn them different ways so that you can't really tell which one is which. If you just look at it right now, you might be able to guess which ones are congruent, but I'm going to tell you from experience, sometimes you will not. So please, please write the key for yourself. You will save yourself a lot of time and a lot of headache. Alright, let's start with y. We know we gotta solve for x and y. Y looks like it's by itself. This one's got a y and an x, so I don't really want to deal with that quite yet. Let's get the y knocked out. The y is in angle F currently. And if I look at my lovely handy-dandy key, it tells me that F is congruent to B, which means angle F should be congruent to angle B. Done. So I'm going to write that out first, and then I'm going to start to fill in what each of those things are. It tells me in the picture that angle F is 8y minus 5, so I'm substituting, good vocab word, into that one. Angle B is 99. Okay, so that's my start of my equation. From there, it's your basic algebra, so I'm just going to zoom through that to save us a little bit on time. Hopefully you know how to do your algebra by now. If not, well, that's not good, but make sure you got the correct steps. And so a couple basic algebra steps. So y is really equal to 13, but this is kind of our main thing right there, is getting that equation set up. Okay? Now I'm going to use that 13 and substitute it in over here. Now I don't know what x is, so it's still going to stay x. Don't change it to 13. You didn't solve for x yet. 2 times 13 is 26. There's still an x there, so that is now 26 plus x, which means I only have one thing to solve for now. Don't use this anymore. You did all that awesome hard work. Don't plug in the old equation. Okay? So I've got FE, that's my side, right here. And if I look at my handy-dandy key again, FE is congruent to BC. So I'm going to start off just like I've done with all the other units, just starting with the basic sides. If I plug it in, I've got 26 plus x is equal to 38.4. Do a little easy algebra, and to get x by itself, I subtract 26, and it's really 12.4. Okay. Again, this is kind of your big geometry part. The rest of it's just the algebra. Feel free to pause and copy that down while I move on to the last example. Alright, so last but not least, the third angles theorem. Basically what this is saying is this. If two angles of one triangle, aka C is equal to K, and B is equal to J, then the third angles have to be equal to each other as well, which means A is equal to L. Okay, and that is because all triangles add up to, hopefully you're saying it in your head, 180 degrees. Okay, so we can know that the third one has to be the same for both if you've already figured out the remaining angles. Alright, so let's go down to this guy. Alright, it tells you that NQ or NPQ is congruent to RST, so those are marked. Okay, it tells you that NPQ is 40, so put that in your picture. That would be 40 right there, which means this one's 40. Okay, so using your third angles theorem, see if you can figure out what SRT is. Use the third angles theorem. See See how you do with that.